you see on Twitter?
Well, we would never, I mean, we would have to get in touch with the person and nail the thing down. We don't consider anything nailed on Twitter. You can just put anything, you know, that's, it's interesting because I have a 17-year-old that gets the majority of his information from Reddit. Have any of you guys ever gone on Reddit? Okay, like, so there's like nothing to differentiate actual news from just something that somebody threw up there. I've been looking at that because that's our competition, right? And it's kind of incredible. And I haven't quite figured it out. It looks like a total jumble, right? So, I don't know. I mean, we just try to report it out. We just view it as like a tip source, right?
We wouldn't report something that we hear on a scanner as news either.
Yeah.
You know, if we heard something on the scanner, we wouldn't take, some operations will, but we won't just.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
And we won't do that. I mean, you can't. You have to vet it. You have to make phone calls. It's not gospel. Is it a really fast way to get information? Absolutely. But you have to verify it. And so if somebody called us or somebody tweeted, PG did whatever, it may warrant a phone call. But what we want to know is who do we call right away to see if it's true or not. That's what we would do, but we would not. I don't think you can report a tweet.
So what would you
But
do?
you recognize that people are. There are news agencies out there that are doing it.
Well, that's a frightening thing.
But it's happening.
And that's what you develop. I'm very active on Twitter, and you develop your trusted sources. You get to learn to know who the trusted reporters are, and they usually are from KCRA and the Sacramento Bee. I don't want to talk bad about the other TV stations, but there's also the rush to quickly get it out there and get web hits and get on the scene. And I know I could trust their reporters, especially the 3 B guys who are working on the arena story, your crime reporter, Kim. You know, we will still check it out, but a lot of times, if I have to get it out first, like yesterday you had the jailhouse break. We were in the middle of Pope coverage, and I didn't have a free person to cover that, so we did either KCRA or SAC, we attribute it to you guys.
Yeah, that's
You know,
what
we gave
yeah.
you credit for it, but you learn to develop who has the right information. That's the worst thing you could do. If you put out the wrong information, you ruin your credibility.
So here's a typical string, though. This is really instructive and interesting. The story that the Maloofs had a deal to sell the Kings to Seattle was broken by a food blogger. Okay? A food blogger from Seattle tweeted it. Okay. Then she retracted it. And her father tweeted that she didn't get it from him because he's like a really well-known sports agent who she obviously got it from.
Right.
And then, so meanwhile, we're like having to scramble all over it. It took a while to nail it down, you know? That's a really, so how do you handle that?
But those tweets were out there.
They were out
in
there.
the news domain.
Right.
Before people had nailed them down.
Right, they were. Well, at first.
They were being reported, they were being attributed.
Right.
And just because you're attributing it doesn't mean you're nailing it down.
At first, I think that I can't remember the sequence. Like
I do.
We got as much as we could. We like said that you know that it wasn't sure. Blah blah blah. We said that she'd retract it. We said, but as it evolved during the day, it became obvious that it was in fact true.
But I'm going to tell you something, and that was a pivotal day to me. That to me was an aha about where our industry has gone.
Yeah.
One girl puts out a tweet, she retracts it, her father says, don't know. Problem is, nobody's saying we don't know or that's not true. So we go to the mayor, what do you know? Well, I'm kind of hearing it too. We call the mayor of Seattle, well, I'm kind of hearing it too. Based on one woman's tweet, we put a crew on a plane who goes to Seattle. Seattle puts a crew on a plane. They come to Sacramento. It becomes a national press conference.
We sent Ryan to Seattle.
But it makes national news based on one girl's tweet at 6:15 in the morning.
And nothing's confirmed by the time.
Nothing's confirmed, but nothing is denied.
Right.
Nothing is confirmed and nothing is denied. And so at that moment, and again, 2 stations put crews on planes to go based on one tweet. And I went home that night and I thought, this is a game changer. This is, and I'm the one that put them on the plane to send. I mean, and I often think back, you know, is that something that we should have done? You know, is it? But again, that story is getting hits all day
It does.
long.
Well, and it turned out to be true. And the thing is, when you started to make phone calls on it right away, it was obvious something was up, right? Because as she said, nobody was denying it, everybody was working and hearing it.
Well, you have the connection of the sports agent father too.
Yeah.
Which gives it a little more credibility.
And, yeah, and, right, and it was logical, too, because of the whole Virginia Beach thing had just collapsed, and they were clearly playing Virginia Beach, and it was.
But it's your credibility. Other stations are following the KCRA tweet. Or yours. It's
Yeah.
back to that whole thing. You know what I mean? It's if you hear from Franchise Tax Board, you have to believe it's a state agency. What we're putting to you is
Right.
legit. Make that call and then get that second source. I'm with Lori on that. It's like, wow, the instinctual thing is why you're in the position you are to like, they are, but they're not. We better roll on it, and you're ahead of it. That's the impression, that you have resources. But for the other ones who don't have the resources, they're following all three of your leads, and then it's back to all that. So for a state agency to tweet something, it's not like, rumor mill in a coffee shop, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's
But has been nothing as competitive in the past 2 years as the King story. And it's led to some sloppy reporting. Again, people, the thing now we're getting into a journalism discussion, everyone claiming an exclusive. I saw Kevin Johnson in the bathroom, I talked to him. And they go with that. And from the other side of it, KFBK broke the King story 2 years ago.
Right.
Myself and my editor, my reporter, Ron McAllister, broke it, and we
Right.
talked to the source, and for 2 months, no one believed us.
Right.
People it was the opposite, that no one, the Kings can't believe it, Kings can't believe it.
Right.
And other media even made fun of us, saying it wasn't true until David Stern announced it at NBA All-Star Weekend. And then that's when everything just blew up, and we're in this frenzy now that's not going to die down until maybe April 19th or 18th or 19th, and even then it probably won't die down.
One can only hope.
No, it's a huge national story, but so
Yeah.
if the
Everyone has
election
an
director sold his
exclusive.
house, they must be going. I mean, you could just take it.
Exactly.
Yeah. from
That was
the
one of them.
60s. Oh, right.
Gavin's not at his house anymore. That means something.
Sort of on the, related to Twitter and you saying you have trusted sources, I'm curious about some of the trusted sources, and like in the Sacramento Bee, for example, on the A3, that sometimes the tidbit will be like a tweet from a legislator, and I'm wondering what kind of vetting or verification goes to ensure that that account hasn't been hacked, or that there's any follow-up that that person has really tweeted that, and is it their staff? Just kind of curious what goes into even among your trusted tweet sources.
I'm not in the Capitol Bureau, but I can actually email them and ask, but I imagine I would think, because this would be our normal procedure, and I would do it if I were there, that they would call the office of the legislator and confirm that he or she in fact sent the tweet, and I'm sure they probably do. We've been having this discussion, not just about Twitter, but about interviewing people too, which is an interesting question. Because emailing has become such a more common form of interview, right? But emailing is so different from talking to someone on the phone or talking to them in person, and the quotes tend to be so much more canned. They can be written by a staff person. There's no back and forth. So we want to discourage that, right? And we also always point out if it came in an email, like in a statement. But what about a text interview, right? What about someone who's sitting on the floor in the legislature, or they're on the up on the dais at the city council, they're busy. You send them a text, they text you back, it's their phone, that it's them, and you conduct this essentially back and forth interview in text. I mean, that's happening with some of our reporters. So then do you acknowledge that that was a text interview? It's more like a real interview than an email exchange, but it's just interesting. Technology raises all kinds of interesting questions, and we're still wrestling with those too.
Hi, Mary Lynn
Hey,
McConaughey.
oh, I remember you. Hi.
Well, I deal a lot with John O'Keefe, of course, we're like this. And when I first started a couple of months ago, he, very nicely said, I would prefer to hear from you, which I tend to be a phone person anyway, but I'm so glad you pointed that out and sort of clarified, because
Yeah.
it does make sense. It is different, and I do notice that if response is emailed, that it's, it's pointed out, and I think it should be, because it does seem canned. And
Right.
quite
Our
frankly,
mayor likes to
I've
do
been,
that. Yeah.
look around, it's all on me, but learning to deal with the governor's office, that's what I get sometimes.
Oh,
is
yeah.
They give me a canned answer
Right.
to email, and My former agency, insurance, was sort of the same. They would do some of that.
Right, I mean, and I spent a brief period of time on the other side, and I've written those quotes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
Yeah, no,
So-
it resonates with me,
Yeah.
so I appreciate you bringing that up.
So you guys are getting your news from social media just like we are, and our kids are.
We're hearing about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gospel.
All different sources.
Yeah.
Still email, still for us, probably over TV, and all of us. Tips from listeners or from viewers or whatever it is. Some of our best sources. People are out on the street and see something that's going on, call the news. It's still the old-fashioned way, that way. I'm not saying Twitter's everything, we still have all different ways to get information.
Can you tell us, I think you mentioned one, but can you tell us frustrations you have with public information officers? Because that will help us. Have at it, but it really will help us.
The ones who say,
Now we're gonna hear some good stuff. Look at her lean in.
no, there's a terrible accident, the Highway 50's blocked up, there's been an 8-car accident. So get somebody, maybe not CHP, Fran, I'll say SACPD instead, because Fran's here from CHP. I say, could you just come on the air and tell our listeners, because they're stuck in traffic, they don't know what's going on, we don't have a helicopter, we used to have 2 planes. But, no, I can't talk now, I have to find more information, no, I just come on the air and just say a few things, no, I can't, you're going on the air, and they go, and they're fine. We have Highway 50 backed up, there's an 8-car accident that's gonna be tied up for 2 or 3 hours. That's all we need to know. Be forthcoming, we're not gonna bite your head off, we just need to know what it is, and if you're stuck in traffic, we're not gonna wait an hour for you to put your press release together.
Sometimes that's out of our control, though.
No,
You know,
yeah.
that's what we're dealing with on our end, again, and maybe the governor's office, in addition to our agencies, kills me. I've been on the news side too, and I've got to wait. That's
Except
kinda-
that when there's breaking news, viewers, they turn to us for information, and so we're all doing our jobs. I mean, I get it, we're all doing our jobs, but the problem is when something breaks, as you said, and you're absolutely right, and there's zero information, and dispatch or whoever says, I can't tell you, everybody's at the scene, I can't tell you. We're not gonna say, okay, bye, we're gonna keep calling you. We're going to keep calling you until we get something. Because we're on the air and people are asking us. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. So give us one nugget. We can run with one nugget for a while, but just give us something so that we can then leave you alone, let your news gather, and then we'll come back to you. The other thing I would say to a PIO, don't run. I mean, if your person can't talk, let's say you're the PIO for someone and they just want to text, they don't want to talk, face us. Don't run away. Even if it's brief, even if it's something small, give it to us and then we'll be on our way. Because in the absence of information, other stories are going to get told. And I don't know that that's necessarily what that person had intended. So just and be honest with us. Because a lot of times when people say, look, I'm just telling you this, not for off the record, I'm telling you, he's in a meeting, he really can't, we believe you. When you say off the record, we tend to believe you because we don't want to burn you as a source either. But people who just kind of push us off and, think we're not going to come back, that's not true. Because when we come back, we tend to come back with a vengeance. So don't just push us off.
And we'll go to your supervisor too. Why didn't
I just got to defend the whole traffic. From our perspective, Fran Clater from CHP, sometimes we don't know yet what's going on, and I know, your predecessor, one of your predecessors, Jim Jacobs, is always famous for calling me and saying, what's going on right now on Highway 50? I'm like, I don't know, what is? Turn on the TV, we're overhead, okay, this is the first I'm seeing of it, let me see what I can find out. But what we are encouraging our PIOs to do, at least, is say, hey, we've got units en route, looks like we've got a couple cars, whatever they can say.
But that's fine.
Without, because a lot of these guys want to be able to say, two-party collision, they want to be able to give you all the details. And what we're trying to encourage them to say is, at least tell them, we're en route, we've got detours set up, if you can take an alternate route, please do. At least say something.
But
so that
see,
viewers have
that's
something.
perfect. Because what's happening nowadays too is that you're not just feeding television, you're feeding our website.
Mhm.
And mobile, and everybody's on this. And you're so right, even if you can't give us the whole story, because you're not gonna have the whole story for another half hour. Give us 3 bullet points, that's all we need. We'll get on the air, we'll get off, we'll put it on our website, we're done.
Right.
And then let us know when we can call you back, and that's incredibly helpful.
Just confirming that it took place.
Yes.
CHP confirmed the case.
All you
already.
have-
This is happening, going down, we'll get back to
That's
more
true,
details later.
because a lot of times we'll hear stuff on the scanner.
Right.
And you're right, I mean, some of our competition, they'll go on with scanner traffic, and I'll say, we're not going on with scanner traffic. But as I'm standing in the middle of the newsroom, what I say is, can we confirm it? Just confirm it. We'll send somebody to go to chase it, can we confirm it? It's getting that confirmation that's the hard part.
In those cases, then, in using Twitter, coming from CHP, if we're saying, hey, Highway 50 just got shut down, because of this, would you take that information
We would still
and
call.
report it, or
We
would
would
you
st-
still call?
We would say CHP is tweeting that Highway 50 is shut down. At that point, if it sounds like it's something big, we're gonna get into position to do some kind of cut-in. But we would still work the story. We're still gonna pick up the phone and call, because we need more information. We don't know why. We don't know what kind of circumstances. That was a blast to get the information out. We still want details, but that's helpful.
Is it okay if we call, do you want us to call you guys, the editors, or is it okay if we call reporters and try to get stories that way directly?
Lori.
700 emails a day?
I love the reporters. Call the reporters. Art, I agree with you. We get so much information every day. There's no way.
However we can get it is okay?
Yeah.
I think for me, the emails are my biggest time suck. I hear, when I get back, it'll be 2 weeks or something, I have to look through. And I wish there was a way to make that better.
Speak up, please.
Sorry, I'm sorry, emails are my biggest time suck. When I get back to work, I want to just jump in and start setting up a newscast. I know there's going to be 200 emails awaiting me, so I think most of us have generic emails that go to the entire newsroom, so we can all take a look at them.
What about, oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Mary Lynn, I know you talked about, do less with more, and I know all your staffs are being reduced. Is there an opportunity, I know there was for me when I was a reporter, but I think it's few and far between now. Is there an opportunity for PIOs to cultivate those relationships with reporters by still trying to engage them and let's have a cup of coffee and talk about, the issues that are important to me and the issues that are important to me? Do you encourage that with your reporters? Do they even have time for it?
Yeah, it's definitely harder. Like, for instance, on energy, which would be our last dedicated energy reporter picked up and moved to Hawaii, whatever.
I remember him.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have one, So, but that doesn't mean if there's an important energy story, I won't try and get it covered. So, yes, but I will be honest and say that people are juggling many things and people don't have much time, which actually, I hate to admit it, makes me more important in the sense that if you get to know me, then there's more parceling out of stuff that goes on when everybody was owned a particular beat. And we had every beat covered. We don't have every beat covered anymore. And particularly on the business side, honestly, there's a lot of territory that's not covered very well.
So Mary Lynn, a lot of the institutional knowledge of those beat reporters is gone.
Yes, but I had the time. I've been here for 22 years, and I was a business reporter, I was a political reporter, I covered development for here for 10 years. So on virtually any of these issues, I will actually know what you're talking about, But and actually, there's a fair amount of institutional expertise left because our reporters are all old. We're all my age. I think Ryan Willis is probably one of the youngest reporters in the newsroom, and Kim Inu. All the young people, for the most part, are gone. Yeah.
Will it grow again? If the economy gets better, will we get more reporters and they'll get?
I don't know. I hope so.
Well, on the opposite, I'm working with a bunch of 20-somethings.
Yeah.
And we have to teach them a lot, too.
Yeah. We have interns come, we're getting a Northwestern intern all the time now. So we have really young people, and then we have all these middle-aged people. And I don't know. I hope so. Yeah.
With Employment Development Department, and we've been doing some experimentation of doing sound bites and putting them up on YouTube, and now we figured out that video is a better way to do it, but especially when we're part of the sequestration, lucky us. what's your viewpoint both on radio and television on using sound bites that are put up on either Vimeo or YouTube?
All right, you're somebody local, so it's somebody here in Sacramento who puts something
Right,
out.
but we're statewide, so when we
Yeah.
have either, employment, or especially with the sequestration, it's the end of the federal unemployment benefits. So we need to push news out, and in order to do that, we can do it locally, but to do it statewide, we've been actually having somebody, Lori Levy, who is our public information expert, will actually, we will videotape a sound bite and do 3 or 4 different sound bites. And we have mixed success. Some of the stations use them and some of them don't. I don't know if either of you have experience on using sound bites that you've taken
We use them,
from.
KFBK uses them. Again, it has to be a trusted source, like someone like Senate President Darrell Steinberg sends out sound bites every day. That doesn't mean we might not follow up and ask for more, but in the crunch newsroom with fewer reporters, more demands, the average news person doing 2 or 3 jobs, plus having to feed Facebook, Twitter, post a story on the web, take pictures, and even go live on the air. Sometimes I have to say it's convenient, maybe it's too convenient. In the old days, we would go down to the Capitol and talk to Mr. Steinberg, but now if he had a news conference or he couldn't be there and he sends sound bites, that helps.
We would want to.
An MP3, they send him an MP3, I think better than, that would be more appropriate than YouTube.
Well, we found out YouTube doesn't have the, it compresses them too much, so we're going with Vimeo now.
Yeah, the lawmakers
But
use
we've had
MP3s.
success with television stations, like I said, down south, because they can't get to our spokesperson up here.
Yeah, we'd want to shoot it ourselves, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
but let's say that you had, if you were in a station that wasn't in Sacramento, would you have any interest in using sound bites that you pull down? I mean, it used to be satellite feeds, and that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it depends. Smaller markets
Yeah.
probably would. We would ask, like, our NBC station, let's say this person was in LA. We would ask our affiliate to go and get it, probably. I think we'd rather have control. But I can see smaller stations probably using it.
That's where we've had our success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that-
So MP3s are sent to you, you don't have to go fish for
Yeah,
them.
we get the email along with like usually 3 to 4 MP3s from different lawmakers, and now we try to round it out, call the opposite side or whatever. It does help, it makes it more efficient, like I do lament that it's not like the old days we could go down and sit down and have a cup of coffee with the lawmaker, but it helps us in the new 21st century newsroom.
Do they include time notes on the MP3? At 1 minute, we cover this at minute 30,
Yeah,
we say
sound bites,
this.
there'll be like a 13-second
Oh,
sound
okay.
bite and 15-second sound bite. It's basically the same thing the lawmaker would say at this news conference that we weren't able to be at. They'll send it out in case you weren't able to attend.
John, did you have a question?
Actually, it was the same as Patty's, but I'll ask this. If one of my guys is on KCRA, for example, and I want to link to it on
John's
our
franchise tax lawyer.
Facebook page, is that cool? Or do I need your blessing?
You need our blessing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, if one of our people is on KCRA or KOBR or whatever, and I want to link to it on our Facebook page, can I just link to it, or do I need to get the blessing of KCRA to do that?
You want to link to it on your page.
Yeah, hey guys, Dan was on KCRA this morning. And
Yeah, give us we tend to do that. I mean,
Oh.
just, we'd appreciate
Okay.
it if you'd give us a call.
And Lori, for fresh B-roll, anybody, I don't know, the agencies, explain a little bit, the video library and all that. Encourage some fresh, because in the day and age of HD and all this, and you have 2001 thumbing through taxpayers' video,
Yeah.
and it's like freezing on, we're working towards trying to freshen it all up and make it more sensitive with YouTube and this age and the freezing and the DVRs and the HD. Looking for some fresh video, fresh B-roll of the agencies, the
Preferably.
locations.
Yeah, I think so. I think the quality of video, and this, I was going to say tape, it changes, not even yearly, it's changing every 6 months, it's something different. So the newer you can make it, I think the better for us. In a perfect world, we would go out and shoot it ourselves. But if you can, I think that's helpful.
Explain to them the video library, if they're quickly looking for video, and it's this franchise tax board story, and up comes the 2001 IRS B-roll you've had for 9 years in your video library. I mean, you're all looking for something
We
a
need
little
something
bit
new, yeah.
and fresh and
Absolutely.
timely and security sensitive.
And be, I think that's a good point, and be cognizant of that too, especially if your story is visual. Give us a hand, and tell us, here's what we can help you with, here's what you can shoot when you get here. Just give us a sense, because we're visual.
So it's helpful to provide the B-roll if we have something else.
It is, but also in this day and age, we are very careful about B-roll that's given to us from other sources. We want to be very careful about that. In most cases, in many cases, we can use it. But a lot of times, I'm anal. I want to know who shot it and where it came from. I have to, but most of the time, we can use some of it.
But the more with less, I think everyone's trying to bring it to you. We all know from the media, dark side to the light, wherever. That
And we appreciate
you're doing more with less, or you're trying to serve it up to you.
Yes.
But you're cautiously optimistic where it's coming from.
Yes.
It's a two-way thing, but if we actually give you something,
It's helpful.
it is helpful. You're
It's
not going to
helpful.
take it and burn it. And
No.
I mean, but
No.
you know what I'm saying?
We will hold on to it, yeah, and
You just
archive
need
it.
a chain of custody, you just need to kind of understand where it came from and that type of thing.
Yes.
So if it's from a government agency, do you want the photographer's name or the
Um,
unit within the agency or I mean, how much?
It gets a little complex. In our company, every company is different, but in our company, we are careful because we want to know who shot that video. If we take a picture, and everybody's different, so I know people are, but everybody's different. If we're doing a story and we take a picture off of a yearbook, out of a yearbook, and we put it on the air, and we didn't shoot it, and the photographer sees that, they've licensed that. That's their property. So if we go and put it on there, we are at risk. So in this day and age, we are very, very careful about what we put on the air. And so if there's a story where they went to Facebook and they got it, or they went to the yearbook and they got it, at our station we are very conservative because we don't know where it came from. We don't know that we have permission. If you've shot something and it's good quality and you've given us permission, that is not a problem. That's helpful to us. But we are going to ask where it came from because we just don't want to lift it and use it. People have been sued and we don't want that to happen.
So do you keep a library, or is it just like whatever?
No, we keep it.
So is it helpful to just say, you may use this with our permission?
Yes, that's very helpful.
How about saying where you're from so we know?
Yeah, Brandy Ehlers, I'm with PG&E as well. We tend to try to do a lot of editorial boards, and I'm wondering what value you guys see in us bringing officers or even local, directors to you guys to do that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you come to our ed board, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can always ask, actually, you can ask that they invite, and they usually do, and sometimes we go, depending on time, that a reporter or editor from the newsroom come to the ed board meeting too. Because that, that's a way to kill two birds with one stone, and that often happens.
And do you know, like, the kind of process of how, they value the importance of it? Because most of our CEOs and our officers are based out of San Francisco. They're not necessarily local Sacramento folks.
Yeah.
But is there still a value that you guys see?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing you want to do, I think, is to, because PG&E is an interesting thing because, the vast majority of our customers are SMUD, electricity customers, but of course they're PG&E gas customers. So the line, explosion obviously had huge relevance for us. But there are many things that do, and there are also PG&E electricity customers here too. Just like with anything else, try to do what you can to tailor it and make it relevant to this market. Yeah. Because it's not, PG&E isn't always top of mind, right? Because you think of SMUD as being a local utility.
So when I first called to try to get Lori, I shouldn't have even said that. But because now I'm going to disclose something. But I talked to an assignment editor, and so I said, what do you think of? So I got some quotes here. I thought I'd throw this out. So one assignment editor told me, in frustration, one frustration is receiving a news release and not finding anyone who'll talk after they get the news release. We call, no one returns our call. We need a person, a video, someone, something. It's common sense. When no one returns our call, it sheds negative light on the agency. We are reporting.